Hi, I'm Manga Captor, and welcome to November's reading log. In November, I read lots of great titles, and I'm excited to talk about them. So go ahead and get cozy, grab a snack, and let's start the video. Starting off, I read volume 10 of Spy Family. The volumes leading up to this one are all kind of cute and silly, but this one has a much darker tone to it since we get a look into Lloyd's childhood. I would keep a box of tissues nearby because this volume might make you cry. Overall, it was a great entry in the series and I enjoyed it. I also read volume 4 of our Not So Lonely Planet travel guide. This is one of my favorite BLs right now because it's just so wholesome. It's got great travel montages, excellent food, and such a cute relationship between the two main characters. I can't wait for more volumes. I'm not sure when they're scheduled to come out, but I'm hoping we get a fairy tale wedding ending, please. It's safe to say that I am a huge fan of Heaven Official's Blessing. In the month of November, I read volume 2, 3, 4, and drumroll, volume 5. It is so easy to slip into the world of Heaven Official's Blessing. There's so much lore, so many characters, so many mysteries that unravel, moments of frustratingly cute and subtle romance between our two main characters, ghosts and gods. There's just so much packed into this series and I can't wait to continue reading it. I read volume 4 of Usotoki Rhetoric, and I have to say that this one is the weakest in the series so far. It wasn't bad, but this episodic volume fell a little bit flat. There was one good story mixed in with a bunch of okay ones, but I'm gonna keep reading this series. It's not on the chopping block, I still like these characters, and I want to see where the next volumes take them. I also read volume 3 of Yokohama Kaidashi Kiko, and this series just serves. I am obsessed with it. I feel like every time I read a book in this series, I am transported somewhere else. In this book, we get to see Alpha as she goes on a trip to decompress, see what's out there, take pictures, pick up odd jobs, and just experience what it's like to be by herself. This volume just did so much for the story and for Alpha's development as a character. We also got lots of wonderful full color panels, which is such a treat for the eyes. This series is truly a must read, and I don't say that lightly. Okay, on to this series that is out of print. Look, I am trying to read it at a slow pace, but that is so difficult because Yuki Kamatani really knows how to write an impactful, emotional story. I'm on the lookout for volume 6 because I read volumes 2 through 5 and I need to know what happens next. And it's so hard to find the next volumes in this series because it is out of print, which is such a shame because the story is so good. Basically, there is this hidden power of unknown strength that all of these ninja clans are after for different reasons, and it manifests in our main protagonist, Miharu, who is a completely apathetic child that doesn't want anything to do with this. But they get placed right in the middle and have to make some difficult decisions that are so heart-wrenching. He puts up an apathetic act to protect himself. He's basically that kid that ends all his texts with LOL. I love this story and I've made it my quest to collect all of the volumes. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it somehow. I also read volumes 13, 14, and 15 of One Piece, and I don't have much to say other than it was amazing and I can't wait to keep experiencing this journey. I also read the first volume of Witch Hat Atelier Kitchen, and this was such a delicious, wonderful read. It's great to see these characters in a more leisurely setting because they're often doing difficult things and they're in stressful situations, so it's great to just see them relax and cook at home. I love that Kifri is just like the dad that is making meals for all of his kids, and Alrugio, who also makes it to the kitchen to cook up some wonderful dishes. I really loved this first volume because they use ingredients that are native to the world of Witch Hat Atelier, which I think is so creative, and then they give us the earth equivalent of said ingredient so that we can replicate these wonderful delicacies. And of course, it wouldn't be a Witch Hat Atelier spin-off if they didn't use magic to cook their dishes, which is always a delight to see. Okay. I think there are times where it's good to separate video games from manga. I love Ace Attorney, but this thing was weird. It was weirder than the Ace Attorney games usually are. A lot of the stories were fine, and then some of them were just very strange. And then there were some great standout stories. Overall, I'm still happy to have this in my collection. It's just a weird one. I still have to read the Miles Edgeworth case collections. I'm hoping that one's better. It might be weirder though, let's be honest. But yeah, I read this. Okay, and I also read My Dear Agent off of a free library service called Hoopla, and I saw this title and I was like, okay, let's go ahead and try it. And this first volume was really cute. This is a story about two agents who work together as bodyguards. Riichi has been there the longest. He's one of the best members on the team, and he is tasked with helping the new hire, Tachibana, who we see here. And he is such a chill, laid-back dude and immediately asks Riichi on a date. And this takes Riichi by surprise. And to make matters more complicated, Tachibana moves in with Riichi because he has nowhere to stay. Of course. This is BL, remember? They start to develop feelings for each other, and they have these stay-at-home dates that are very cute. This volume very much focuses on them exploring their feelings and what their relationship is. My only complaint is that the volume ended in a really weird manner, rather abruptly, but I'm still gonna go ahead and check out the second volume sometime soon. BL Metamorphosis is a sweet slice of life story. It follows Yuki, a woman in her 70s, who stumbles upon a bookstore where she just casually browses for something good to read. She stumbles upon the BL section without noticing and purchases a volume of BL. She reads it and really adores the genre and can't wait to read the second volume in the series she picked up. And she continues to visit this bookstore where she meets Urara, who works there, and Urara gives her different recommendations for good BL series that are already completed, so she can read all the volumes in one go. Urara even lets Yuki borrow some of her BL manga, and I love her for that. So of course, Yuki ends up completely falling in love with the BL genre. Our two main characters end up forming a friendship on their common interest in BL. They hang out together, they read BL manga together, they bond over characters. It's just such a cute friendship to witness and see blossom. This first volume was such a great introduction to the story, and I'm really invested in it as well as the characters. I can't wait to continue reading this series in the future and share more of my thoughts with you all then. As a worshipper of Persona 3, I felt that it was my duty to read this manga series, and I enjoyed it overall. It's not perfect, it's not amazing. There are some things that would be really confusing if you didn't play the game first. The story goes out of order and the name of the protagonist has changed as well. That threw me for a bit of a loop. The best way to experience the story of Persona 3 is definitely by playing the video game. Otherwise, if you were to read the manga first, it would just be a confusing and watered down version of the story. Will I get the rest of the volumes? I don't know. I'm not really sure. I think just having this one volume on my shelf is a great show of my adoration for the Persona franchise, so I'll probably just leave it at that. Lately, I've been interested in out-of-print titles, and I came across Mushishi. The physical volumes are very expensive, but thankfully it was re-released digitally. This story follows Ginko, a Mushishi, and to understand what a Mushishi is, first we have to cover what Mushi are. Mushi means bug or insect in Japanese. In this story, Mushi are like supernatural creatures that depend on nature or humans to survive. So you can think of them like parasites that make people ill. They can make a person sensitive to sound, grow horns, they can even give humans supernatural abilities. So a Mushishi is someone who studies Mushi and also knows how to rid these Mushi parasites from their hosts. The manga takes an episodic approach and follows Ginko as he travels around to different areas to study new Mushi and to heal those who have been affected. I really enjoyed this first volume, I like the art style, and most of the episodic stories are good and well written. However, there is some content that can be triggering to some readers. I will place that content on screen now, so you can be aware of it. This first volume was a nice blend of horror, supernatural, and slice of life all in one. Associate Professor Akira Takatsuki's Conjecture has to be one of the most charming things I read in November. The story follows our two main characters, Naoya, who is a college student with the ability to hear lies. He attends his folklore class and meets Professor Akira, who is fascinated by paranormal events and stories. He welcomes his students to submit their paranormal experiences in the hopes of finding something truly supernatural. Despite Akira being fanatical about ghost stories and folklore, he doesn't freely believe in these stories upon first hearing about them. He takes his time researching and trying to recreate the same experience that caused these events to occur. He befriends Naoya, as he is intrigued by a paranormal event he submitted. He convinces Naoya to join him and help him uncover these paranormal mysteries. Naoya is very reluctant but agrees to help him out of a sense of care for him. This sense of care Naoya has towards his professor comes from the ability to hear how clear and honest his voice comes through. Remember, Naoya can hear lies. He hasn't heard his professor say a single lie, and on top of that, his voice has a comforting clarity to it. And that's because he's so earnest about what he's pursuing. He wants to know the truth about these paranormal stories, and Naoya just wants to protect him and help him out. It's so sweet. I really love the bond between the two that is slowly forming. I also read Insomniac's After School Volume 1. This story is about two classmates who both can't sleep at night, Ganta and Isaki. Ganta is busy putting cardboard boxes away. He ends up stumbling across the astronomy club's building, and he shrieks as he bumps into his classmate Isaki lying on the ground. They talk to each other and both relate on how they're always tired since they can't sleep at night. As their conversation lengthens, they eventually fall asleep, something that surprises them both. They then decide to use the abandoned astronomy club building to take naps during school, since something about being around each other helps them fall asleep. It's a pretty cute story, but I wouldn't say that I was in love with the first volume. I didn't find it extremely interesting. I'm still going to give the next couple volumes a try and see if it gets better. Okay, I hated this volume. I hated Nichijou, and I really didn't want to, but I don't like it at all. It was just a disturbing read, honestly. The jokes don't land, and that might just be because there's not a good equivalent from the Japanese joke to English, and that's understandable. I can forgive that, but it's just creepy. Like, there's a robot girl in here that has her body modified in ways that she does not like, and there's also gun violence that happens in a classroom and it's used as a joke. So it's not good. No. Now, moving on to a series that is much better, Otomen. I read volumes 1 through 5 so quickly. It was such a great experience. It was fluffy, it was cute, slightly problematic, but not enough for me to drop the series. Basically, this story is about our main character Asuka, who is a feminine guy. He, however, portrays himself as very masculine because he doesn't want anyone to know that he actually likes making stuffed animals, knitting, cooking, and of course shoujo manga. However, he can't keep hiding this because he starts to fall for one of his classmates, and as he starts to fall for her, he just can't help but start knitting her gifts and helping her out with her cooking, but she doesn't mind any of this. She in fact thinks it's really cool because she doesn't really have the same hobbies as he does, so they create a nice balance between the two. I feel like the author is trying to tell us that, hey, it doesn't matter what your interests are, they don't affect your gender. We should view hobbies as genderless. But it doesn't quite succeed in separating gender from hobbies. There are lots of jokes about how Asuka would make a great wife one day, or how he would totally be the girl in a straight relationship. So basically, this series is not perfect, but I still enjoy it nonetheless because I find it really fun and goofy, and as a non-binary person, it feels like I'm laughing from the sidelines just watching these people panic over nothing. If you're a guy and you like shoujo manga, that just means you have good taste. Congratulations. I'd say this manga falls into the junk food category, and I'm gonna keep eating it up. I read the first volume of Blue Flag and I thought it was okay. I had higher expectations as lots of people really love this series. It's basically, from what I can understand, a love triangle of sorts where the girl has a crush on a guy, but she doesn't want to tell him, so then she gets help from his friend to tell him, but that friend is aware that her crush likes someone else, so he feels conflicted and there's all this drama that happens, and I don't know, I kind of just didn't really get that invested into the story. Despite all that, I'm still willing to continue this story sometime in the future. I have been hearing about My Love Mix-Up for a long time now, so I read volumes 1 through 3 and I really enjoyed them. We follow Aoki as he experiences his first crush on a girl in his class, and one day he asks her for an eraser, and she gladly gives him one. And he notices that the eraser has a boy's name on it with a heart. That boy's name is Ida, who just happens to be one of the most popular boys in school. He is distraught, and he doesn't think he stands a chance against this guy. Aoki accidentally drops the eraser. Ida picks it up from the ground and of course notices his name on it with a heart. Aoki claims that the eraser is his in order to confuse Ida and misdirect the crush. This leads to an interesting story where people are confused about who likes who, and it's just silly and goofy and really heartwarming. And that wraps up my reads for November. What a great month of reading it was. Let me know what your favorite series were that I pointed out in this reading log, and if there is anything I should be reading based off of my reads for November. And that wraps up this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.